Yo, what's good everybody? Welcome to my new video. This will be about a build I used to clear Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon solo run in Cultus RPG. I also uploaded that run right up top in the corner. Let's get straight into it. I will also have this build on Diablo builds, which will be in the comment section below in the pinned comment. So first things first, we got skills. We go with Frenzy for damage reductions here for each stack. Frenzy gives you 3 stacks, so that's a lot of DR. We go with double swing, obviously also all points into it. This is great because it gives you a full refund of the cost of the skill, even with Unbridled Rage if you get the specific affixes. And the great thing about this build is double swing can keep enemies vulnerable non-stop 24/7. And I also made a separate video where I talked about offensive and defensive affixes or stats. And I said vulnerable is the best DPS stat in this game, so you want to focus on that. We go with ground stomp and increase stun. As you can see, my ground stomp lasts for 8 seconds instead of 4 seconds. Oh, that's a long cooldown. I mean, it's a long stun. So I will also mention it in a bit. It's almost long enough for the whole cooldown to, go to 0. There is only 2 seconds downtime. But mobs get unstoppable after a while, after the full stun actually. So yeah, we go with max HP and DR from elites. We are looking for almost all the DR that we have currently available. For those 90 plus tiers, it's really crucial because endgame is all about defensives, not that much about the offensive, or not that much about damage like people think. Rallying Cry, the classic for resource and fury, and movement speed and melee for it to become unstoppable. Challenging Shout just for the HP. As you can see, this Challenging Shout lasts for 15 seconds, and with Martial, Glyph, and Bolt Chieftain aspect on my ring, we can have non-stop uptime Challenging Shout, which applies to both DR and this HP, or even Fury if you decide to go with that. But I will show you how to make this one last a long time. Because if you, normally it would be, as you can see here, I'm in the safe zone. It goes back to the original value. So this is almost like 7.5 seconds. Same with the stun 4 seconds. Next up we got Tough as Nails. This is mainly to put bleed on those distant enemies that hit you, because we have a lot of damage reduction from bleeding enemies. This is great interaction for Barbarian. We go full upgrades on Booming Voice for more durations, like 1 second extra bleed for the shouts. Guttural Yell is one of the best debuffs on the mobs because they deal less damage by 12%. This is like another defensive layer on top of all the DRs we have, armor, HP and all that. Great stuff for 5 seconds. So re-rotation would be best to start with Challenging Shout, and then after 5 seconds, Rallying Cry, to keep this Guttural Yell on the mobs, non-stop. Something I struggle with. Right Leader for HP, for healing, very useful, very good against those dots in the game, especially poison, like Blind Barrows. We go with Pit Fighter. I love this one. This is both offensive and defensive buff. No Mercy for more crit chance. We go with a Hamstring. Splits a slow. Slow is a CC and it applies to No Mercy. So we have non-stop increased crit damage. Crit chance. Well, crit damage too on the mobs. A Steel Grasp for vulnerable but melee for berserking. This is our proc for berserking. Then I have an aspect that helps this uptime. We go with counter offensive, some extra damage while fortified. If you struggle with DR while fortified, you don't have enough on items, you can put 2 points in here. Attack speed, very important for our damage. Faster attacks means higher DPS. We got the Wallop and we got Concussion. Wallop is so goddamn good. This is the reason why I run Maces. But I'll talk about it in a bit. Well, Maces for swords. In Concussion, once again, if using bludgeoning weapon, which is Mace, you can, inflict a stun on the target. It's a lucky hit though, but with our attack speed, it happens pretty often. And it's for 6 seconds instead of 3, so another long stun. Yeah, anyways, Temperate Fury, we go melee for the heal here. So Invigorating Fury together with Raid Leader is amazing heal. Once again, you can out-heal, not really out-heal in these high nightmare dungeons, but it helps against those dots a lot. And Unbridled Rage for the damage. One thing great about the double swing once again, because of the full refund we get on the stunned enemy or downed enemy. As you can see, this build is all about stunts. We can easily afford Unbridled Rage. Now, I will talk about Paragon Board. I believe I cooked up a pretty neat Paragon Board. I'm running 7 boards, 7 glyphs, all maxed out, min-maxed, for both offensive and defensive. So we start here, we take all magic nodes for HP because they stack insanely well. Mainly go for armor too. I'm missing one here, but it doesn't really matter. go for both because they are low requirements. First glyph we use are territorial for that extra DR from close, but also damage. First board or second board we go with is Weapon Master. This one is one of the best ones because you have a lot of armor here. Big notes, 200 armor plus strength. Strength gives us armor and skill damage. The glyph we run here is Exploit for that vulnerable damage. You could even go with Martial or Might or Ambidextrous, those glyphs that increase your magic nodes percentage for that armor. Because you can get 3 nodes here. Which is basically like here, almost. You could also run that buffing magic node glyph in here because we have the most magic nodes in this board than any other. I love this one for the damage to elites. This is very high. Like all the damage nodes are 5%, but this is 8%. So I really recommend this one. And even some movement speed after killing elites. Third board we have is Decimator for that vulnerable. Once again, this is one of the best nodes ever. And here I'm running Martial to buff those magic nodes, not only for the DR from vulnerable enemies, but also vulnerable damage. And thanks to Exploit, even mobs hitting you from distant will get vulnerable applied on them. And here we have some more HP and physical damage. End of the board is Flawless Technique. It's my favorite probably, because here you have so much crit damage, it's insane for double swing, for dual wheel build. So here 30%, here we got insane amount of crit damage because I put Ambidextrous, which is damage with one-handed weapons, but also the magic node buff. So it buffs this crit damage, but also more DR from close enemies. So this is like perfect. And requires only 40 strength, very cheap to build. This one is for armor. 200 armor node is amazing. Most are on 100 armor. Next board is Blood Rage. Here we only go for the glyph, which is Undaunted, and we go for the damage reduction from bleeding enemies right here. Then we head south to another board, which is Hemorrhage with Imbiber glyph. I could change this one. I have another idea to use, so either build Theater for the crit chance, because there is never enough of crit chance, right? So this would come in handy. Or we could even run a Mortal Draw, because this is a huge damage increase. So, but I would have to run a different basic skill, scratch that. Imbiber, potion healing increase is very good too, comes in handy, even more heals, always good. The only problem is sometimes if your Fortify generation is not high enough, you can out heal Fortify, which means all the DR is not applied. Basically your heal overtakes Fortify, so you gotta be careful with that. We go even more DRs from bleeding enemies, yes. And last board, Cooked Up Carnage for more DR from close. See, we got 2 boards for DR from close and 2 for bleeding. And then 1 vulnerable DR and 1 armor. 2 armor. So I believe this would be the best for every bar build, in my opinion, to max out these DRs. And the last glyph here is Wrath. I would like to get more points for Wrath or like Exploit, but we are limited with points. That extra damage is not worth for another like glyph slot and whatnot. The reason why you see me with 700 willpower is to meet the requirements here for DR, but also comes in handy because this increases the resource generation, which stacks very well with our rings. So this is the Paragon Board. Now the reason why you see my ground stomp being this high, and also my shout here, basically shout applies taunt. Taunt is a CC. So you're looking for smiting aspect on a two-hander. Aspects on two-handers are 2 times stronger than regular aspects. So not only we get 40% crit chance increase against injured enemies, so our crit chance is almost like maxed out. Right here, like 82.7%, which is amazing. So it's so good for that execute phase on those elites, for example. But also the increase to CC duration by 80%, it all applies to stunts, so like ground stomp, even concussion from the passives, that's why it lasts for 6 seconds, right here. And also to taunt. But with this taunt, we also get the damage reduction, and we also get the max HP. So with the Bold Chieftain and Martial, we have non-stop uptime on this DR. And that's why Barb is somewhat viable from one of the only few classes that are not bugged, like Earthen Bulwark Druid or Poison Rogue with that Bane Glyph stacking multiple poison, or, you know, Hota Barb is also bugged. That aspect does too much damage, so with this non-meta build, because of this, it's viable. And I really like, I hope this is somewhat intended. Now, you would argue that it doesn't last 15 seconds on the skill bar, but it does account for your buffs here. As you can see, the buff just, well, there is one condition. All the art just disappeared, but that's because there is no mob. You need to have at least one mob alive that has this skull icon above its health bar to have the full duration on the shout, on the DR and HP, and even the Fury if you decide to go for the upgrade here. So sometimes you will see me in the tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon to keep one mob alive with that skull icon. Just so, I have this up and running. So that's one of the secrets for Barb. And then there's another secret for Barb. We can chain CC with ground stomp and concussion. So what I noticed was, it happened to me many times. You can probably see it. You can see it in the tier 93, but they're solo, the Shadow Plunge, the Nightmare Dungeon. I even time-stamped it. And you can see it in the tier 100. I chained one of the elites, I believe. So basically, my opener is Steel Grasp into Ground Stomp. And if the lucky hit from Ground Stomp, which is the stun, if the stun doesn't apply, I proc Concussion while the mob is knocked down on the ground from Ground Stomp. I proc Concussion, which is the stun for 6 seconds. And by the time I can use Ground Stomp again, and the stun from Ground Stomp would apply too. Or other way around. You Steel Grasp, Concussion first, don't use Ground Stomp. Right before those 6 seconds are gone, you apply Ground Stomp right before the mob goes into unstoppable phase. You press Ground Stomp, it will knock the mob down the ground, and then you can either stun him with Ground Stomp for 8 seconds or another Concussion. So it's 14 or 12 seconds stun right there. Not sure if that is intended. I feel like this knockdown condition is a CC diminishing return resetter, but hard to say. It's really good though. Really good. Let's get straight to the gear then. So we got headpiece with might aspect for that more DR from basic skill. Also recommend before you go into a fight, try to hold shift click and press your basic skill. That way you will proc the DR from this aspect before you head in the fight. And also then you wanna go with challenging shout, steel grasp, ground stomp, and then just attack away, right? We are looking for cooldown reduction, maximum life, and total armor. Your fourth option could be CC duration even more, so I can have even my stuns last even longer, 9 seconds or so. So that will be your fourth option. I go with willpower again for the Paragon Board to reach 700 willpower. Our chest piece is triple DR and 1 total armor. The thing with DRs on Barb or any class, you want to mirror your 2 pieces, which is chest piece and pants, with the DRs. So for Barb, it's DR from close, fortified, and then bleeding through tough as nails. I was even running, I believe, 200 sword technique for the bleed, because if you start with your steel grasp in the ground stomp, mobs don't have time to attack you, so there is no bleed for them, right? So I would apply a bleed from attacks itself. So you want to mirror these DRs, that's the best way to mitigate damage. And then total armor, you can see I'm 9,000 unbuffed. It's been calculated that the highest amount of armor you need against tier 100 mobs, which are level 154, is 13,000 armor. I tested 13,000, I tested 14.5, and I can notice the difference, so could be just me though. Here we go. You might also notice something. I'm running double 45 aspects. Yes, I do. So this is Numbing Breath. Mainly because this got fixed. It used to be higher number because it scaled from players' levels and not from the codex itself. So I was just thinking, why not drop that DR that I used to have on my pants and run 45? Because 45, if you can get 45 on hit, it's basically like lifesteal. This is like a hit though, but now you might be wondering, how come you get berserking aspect, but your berserker doesn't stay up for too long? Because this is for 2 seconds, which is not enough. Well, I have this glove aspect, relentless berserker. Damaging an enemy with core skill has a chance to extend the duration by 1 second, and this is doubled when crit striked. Now with 1 double swing, we hit twice. So basically, the crit chance is much higher for these attacks, right? If you think about it. So this procs pretty often. Especially, with the with the combo with Steel Grasp and the proc there, it just, you know, we can just extend it more and more. This is absolute GG Biz gloves. Max roll, crit chance, attack speed, lucky hit. Those you are looking for. Now also another thing with gloves, if you should be aiming to reroll attack speed. There is a bug with gloves where if you need attack speed, it will always pop as the first thing and it will always be there with each reroll, which means reaching the highest reroll percentage is so easy. That's definitely a bug. Not sure if it's gonna be fixed, but it's amazing. Now my boots, I run Exploiter, even more CC duration increase by 20%, so I'm running a 100% CC duration increase. Here we go with willpower again for the requirement. Fury cost reduction. You want to get damage reduction while injured. I would love to get higher, at least 40%, but it is what it is. And then the fortified generation is so important. I did not believe in this affix at all until I tried it. It's crazy. I was even running Rolling Cry with 45, but yeah, not anymore. I also like this implicit. Attacks reduce the cooldown of evade by 1.2 seconds. It's very good for a high attack speed build like ours. Now, weapons, we got a 200. Also, the gems for armor are rubies for max HP. With potion, I'm gonna pop one here. We are over 20,000 potion, 20,000, and with the shout, we have almost 24,000. Especially if you have mobs alive around you with that skull icon above their health bar, you have this nonstop. Two-hander, we run a smiting. Once again, I talked about it. The affixes you want to look for here is strength or all stats, depending on your Paragon Board, vulnerable damage, crit damage, core skill damage, or close enemies. I just learned that unbridled scales with close enemies damage too. Shout out to the dudes that commented on my latest video on the stats one. So go with whatever you can find first. Another 200 is Retribution. You want to have this on a 200 because the damage from stunned enemies, it stacks well with expertise, one-handed maces. All stats, you know, the good old I just talked about. I got Edgemaster on my dual wield with hammer. All stats, crit, core, vulnerable, same story. My manhander is accelerating for attack speed. Gems, you want to run green because, you know, vulnerable enemies, they are almost there, always. Not almost, but they are always vulnerable. Rings, we run with max HP, resource, crit chance, and vulnerable. If you can get the crit damage instead of vulnerable, that's fine, but vulnerable is much better. I need a higher roll here on vulnerable, but it's okay. So we go with Bullet Chieftain because of the Rallying Cry and Challenging Shout. Here, we might not even need this, to be honest. With Marshall, we might not even need this to, yeah. But yeah, I have it. Limitless Rage on another ring. Very good. I was thinking of putting this one to 200. Because it would not be 60%, it would be much higher thanks to Unbridled Rage once again. But we'll see about that. Or maybe instead of smiting, but this crit chance is so good, it's crazy. Our amulet, this is the gap roll you should be going for, but it's very hard to get. Valop, defensive, Furious Russian, and cooldown reduction. If you can get some extra armor or DR, that's totally fine. But you should at least focus on the cooldown reduction or even Furious reduction. And we run Disobedience for more armor stacks. I could even get this one on armor, but I just don't have any space to put this on. I mean, so Amulet always better because it's 1.5 times stronger aspect than on normal pieces. Sockets, you wanna go with skulls for armor, yes, which we will replace in the first season with those malignant ones. When it comes to consumables, I run HP potion. You can just see me, you just saw me pop that one. Now there is another buffs, consumables that a lot of people don't know about, but it's called incense. And there are 3 types of incense. It's always in the description. So you can see here, max HP, even more so if you have more players in the group. But running in a group is no bueno for us because the CC overlapping is just no good. That CC chain I just described, Concussion and Ground Stomp, will not work in a group because the CC interferes with other party members and it just messes up with the unstoppable on the mobs. But max HP, this is type 2 incense. Now we have type 1 here, which increases strength. This is another type 2. I rate this one the best one because resistances and armor. This is the defensive that gets calculated first before any damage reductions. So you want to focus on that first, especially once the resistances will be working in the second season. So this is the type 2 incense you want to go for. If you don't have mats for it because it's pretty expensive, you can go for HP. This one is cheap. Type 1 instance, I went for strength because strength is also damage and armor. And then we have type 3 instance, which is chores or chorus of war. Level 100 instance though, so you will not be able to see that at the alchemist before that. Increases all stats and crit with overpower. So this is even easier time reaching that willpower. So I could even drop one of the pieces, I guess, if I can get a higher roll somewhere. And this lasts for 20 minutes. Potion is 30 minutes, I believe. So, and if you die, this gets deleted. This gets, you have to reapply this after every death, sadly, which you could see in the video too. So this was the consumable. Now the topic, sword versus mace. You might think that sword is better because implicit is crit damage and you get attack speed from killing enemies, but with swords, you have to get rid of concussion because it wouldn't proc. And if mob is stunned, you have 100% DR, right? You're immortal because you don't get any hits. Especially after finding out you can chain with ground stomp stun. But the Valop is such a great damage increase, it's insane. Like, if it was only Valop, it would be probably still questionable between swords and maces. But the great thing about maces is, if you run 2 maces, you get 20% multiplier on damage to stunned enemies. This, pairs well with our Retribution. So we get even more damage right there. A lot of people think the Retribution only, you do deal more damage to stunned enemies that get stunned from this aspect, so distant enemies, and that's false. That's a myth. It works against any stunned enemy, even in close. And I already talked about the technique. I run the bleeding one. You could go with 200x, but I like to live the, life not on the edge. Sometimes I do. But bleeding also helps you stack with disobedience. Every tick of bleed helps you get that 1 stack, so it's very useful. If you can get 2 mobs, even more mobs, then 100 stacks of armor is there in no time. Especially when fighting a single elite. That's why my armor is so high right there. If you fight elite 1v1, you cannot get 100 stacks of disobedience. You cannot just, get that many procs or attacks on the target. So this one helps a lot. Also, armor is kept at 85% DR. If you see 100% DR, it doesn't apply. 85 is always the max. And this was the sword versus mace discussion, challenging shout. That's pretty much it. I might make a separate video for barbs only, the secrets to chain CC and challenging shout, because I believe this will get lost and a lot of people will skip this part. But forget to mention, this video will have chapters. If you're missing something, chapter, take a look at the bottom. Should be right there, I think, or at the bottom. So this helps. Also, I stream every day on Twitch. Link will be in the description. I have a Discord channel or Discord server too. You can join us. Also, for the future, it's been getting to my knowledge that a lot of people steal my builds, copy them, whatnot, without credits, which is fine. That's how it goes in the games and RPGs. But I might keep some extra spicy builds for, let's say, being a sub on Twitch or something like that. Because quite a few people brought that to me as well, that they would kind of like to see that. We'll see about that. Gotta pay the bill somehow, right? Since I'm doing this full time. But I believe this is it. This is the whole update for my builds. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section or on Discord. And I will be uploading some leveling builds for Double Swing going into the first season. And I will be uploading a Upheaval leveling build too. Already tried it. I love Upheaval. It's 2 builds I love the most. Double Swing and Upheaval. And I believe we're gonna see some buffs, boys, in 3 days from now on. Until then, y'all have a good one and take it easy. See you soon. Peace.